I've been using the old Goelga. Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me on the show, Jack. Big fan of Perceptive. I've enjoyed some of the talks with your sister, with Aaron, some of the other guests. So
Appreciate it.
honored to. Am I your first guest of 2022?
Second. You're
Okay.
my first. You're my first new guest of 2022 because Aaron was on the podcast before.
Okay, great. All right. Well, happy to keep the momentum going. Yeah, a bit about me. I'm from Carlow in Ireland, very close to where Jack's from, same part of the world, maybe half an hour away. Yeah, a bit about me. Studied business and Italian in UCD in Dublin. Graduated from there in 2019. Went to New Zealand for a little while. Did an internship at a venture capital fund, helping to invest in startups and helping those startups get up and operating. Then after that, I spent a year and a half in Germany with Adidas. You might have heard of them. Three Stripes make clothes. I'm repping here. So yeah, I was involved with them for 18 months, working to a large degree on like their new strategy, new 5-year business plan to take them on to the next stage. Yeah, and plenty of exciting projects happened around that time. Really loved it there. And then a few months ago, left there to try and pursue the startup life. Worked on 2 different projects. Neither of them materialized into unicorns, but we're still out here on the hustle. So, yeah.
Very good, very good. And obviously, we've been talking recently about the new crowd. It's not new. I mean,
Yeah.
They were created in 2018, but there was a big surge in the media early last year. And now you're looking to break into the space, the NFT space.
Web3, crypto, NFTs.
Web3, crypto, gonna revolutionize the world, right?
Yeah.
So NFTs, tell me a bit about these NFTs that I hear so much about.
Yeah, great. I think one way everyone's kind of more or less familiar with, say, cryptocurrency, right? Virtual currencies, Bitcoin, for example, whatever. NFTs are like those in the sense that they are tokens, like the way Bitcoin is. Except the thing about each NFT is it's kind of unique. So it's not like you can trade one for the other exactly, right? They each have their own kind of relative value. Obviously, really great examples have been, say, the likes of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, that a lot of your listeners have probably heard about. So, yeah, there's like 10,000 pictures of these apes. The NFTs themselves, they're the picture, but also an encoded kind of certification of ownership, that this person owns it or whatever. So, yeah, it's all about like kind of certifying the kind of authenticity of who owns the image. It proves the scarcity, shows that there's only 10,000. And I guess the other kind of aspect of them is like those tokens then can be used to like maybe gain access to exclusive groups, exclusive chats. And in the future, you're going to see NFTs used more in the context of like gaining access to like real life events and things like that. I think that's something we were even like chatting about this week, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because Gary Vaynerchuk announced the Fly Fish Club in New York.
Every person that's watching this right now that is lucky enough to be alive in 15 years will own multiple things digitally.
How does that work? So for someone who isn't even familiar with crypto, they've heard of crypto, but they don't really know how it works. NFT is now another essentially division of cryptocurrencies. How does that work in real life? Take the Fly Fish Club, bit of a tongue twister, as an example. Bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Take that as an example. How is that going to work? And how does that relate to like just an everyday person? How will the NFTs work for them in a real life scenario?
Great. Yeah. I think, normally when you want to go to a restaurant, you either like rock up, maybe you might ring ahead, or you go on to open a table and make a booking or whatever. What Gary Vee and his compatriots are trying to do around this restaurant is to really turn it into more of a tight-knit community and a social club. That means that they might sell 10,000 NFTs that will act as membership, and that only people with these NFTs can then go to the restaurant or make bookings or whatever. So when you kind of have that idea of like, say it's 10,000, whatever, like this is exclusive membership, in much the same way that like yacht clubs, golf clubs, other kind of private members clubs work. And it's all going to be, I think, more efficient with crypto. Because say with like, thinking to the example of a golf club, like right now your membership of a golf club, you might go to Carlo Golf Club and pay a couple of €100 to be a member of for the year. Or if you're feeling a bit more ambitious, a couple of hundred extra to be a member of the K Club or Adair Manor or something. What NFTs largely center around is this idea of ownership. So people kind of feel like, oh, I'm not just like a customer subscribing to their service. Like I actually like own something tangible. And if I really believe in the project, say I think this like Fly Fish Club is going to be amazing and fantastic and everyone's going to want to be in. Yeah, like it kind of makes sense from an investment perspective. I buy one of these memberships, it's lifetime. I can always like sell it on down the line as well. If it's, especially, it's cool, right? If social clubs work like that, then you can kind of like resell it on if you're like no longer in that location, whatever.
Awesome. And with the NFTs, like what's the advantage of using an NFT for a membership as opposed to just signing up for a membership in regular terms like we do now?
Yeah, I guess it's just the fact that it can be just like instantly traded or like transacted just at like the click of a button. Like anyone can like kind of buy in, and like it saves the hassle of going through like tons of paperwork or a big sign-up process. Like you can just kind of buy it, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I've heard that there's the potential for NFTs to be potentially counterfeited, or I don't know what the term is, where they can be disrupted in a way so that they're not legitimate. But I've also heard that that's impossible. That when one of the good reasons or one of the benefits to buying and using NFTs is that you know for 100% sure that you have the ownership of whatever the asset is. But is there a potential for there to be any damage done, I guess, to the NFT and make it illegitimate?
Definitely, like stuff that's coded on the blockchain does tend to be very, very secure. Okay. I think in the case of these, like say like the Fly Fish Club, or if say like a big brand is issuing their NFTs, the code should be fairly safe. And also like most people won't get to like read like all the code, the code base that organization is using. In the case of DAOs, for example, decentralized autonomous organizations, these kind of entities where like everyone who's a member has these voting rights, and it's kind of a very kind of flat organization. In examples like those, they like transparency is like really critical to how they work, and they would like have all of their code like publicly viewable. And it's kind of that kind of situation of like, if there is any vulnerability, it becomes super easy to exploit. So people can like change what's the code base, or like transfer some of the ownership tokens to other people and stuff like that. So I definitely think like if people are getting into the space or like investing in certain like cryptocurrencies, NFTs, or wherever, it probably is worth like doing the due diligence on like whether it's secure or not. And there's, maybe you don't know how to code yourself or how to read code, but there's always like other people in those communities who are kind of like maybe publishing like kind of tweets or stuff saying, hey, like there's a couple of red flags here or whatever. Say
right, you're buying an NFT for one of these projects. What's the factor that's going to influence the price fluctuation of that NFT? Because obviously you want to buy it, hold it, get the benefits of whatever membership you're with, and then if you want to sell it, obviously you want to sell it at a higher price than what you bought it at. So what would say we'll take the Fly Fish Club as an example again.
Okay.
What would be the factors that determine whether that price of the NFT membership goes up or down? The value of the actual NFT that backs the restaurant.
Yeah, great question. Maybe I can like reiterate what people generally say drives value.
Okay.
And then I can come along with my own contrarian argument and share what I think drives the value. So generally, people would kind of say that what is driving the value of all these NFT projects is like the utility, like what benefit you get from holding the NFT. So in the instance of some of the art projects, like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, where you get like the picture of the ape. Okay, first of all, you're getting the art itself. If you like pictures of apes who look bored, then that's obviously a benefit to you. But also like the community, like access to those events, maybe access to like some of the parties they have in Miami or whatever. Then yeah, like that's extra like utility. Like some extra like benefit you derive from holding the NFT. I think a lot of what's driving NFTs is status. And that's not to say that like it's superficial or that I'm judgmental about it. But I think when you look at most trends or that go through some kind of exponential growth, a lot of them are driven by the fact that we as human beings are in some way playing a status game. So for instance, like you're maybe playing a status game in terms of like your career, like what job you're getting promotions. You might be playing a status game in terms of like the fashion you choose to wear, the car you choose to drive. It could be even like having some kind of talent, like, you know, like if you're a musician, you're looking for like kind of like validation to your fans. Part of the reason why like certain social networks explode in popularity is because when they came along, they offered a method to gain some kind of like social capital or social currency. So on Facebook, would Facebook have succeeded to the same extent if you couldn't get likes on your posts?
No.
And you had like a kind of a challenge in trying to like come up with like an interesting status to try and get likes. There was Instagram where you were trying to post the best pictures or show like the best aspects of your life, again, get low likes. With TikTok, you know, you wanted to like dance really well and be really good at lip syncing and do something entertaining.
No, not me, man. I hate that shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're going kind of more conservative like LinkedIn or whatever.
Well, just because it's LinkedIn doesn't mean it's conservative,
yeah.
but definitely LinkedIn is the daddy of all the social networks.
Yeah. No, but it's kind of a case of people go onto these platforms. There has to be some kind of like skill or something that differentiates how successful people are going to be in like accruing that attention. But yeah, general rule of thumb is people look for like the easiest and quickest way they can acquire status. And I think like more recently in the last few months, like one of the easiest and quickest ways to gain status was to change your profile picture to like a bored ape or some kind of like cartoon.
One of those JPEG image.
Yeah, like people also like you look on Twitter and like people's personalities are like kind of like reworked into like their Web3 personality now, which is super interesting.
Well, give me an example. What would that look like? I don't use Twitter, so like just people are changing their personality because they're involved in the NFT space.
Yeah, I think people just like talking about like which projects or like DAOs they're in or like what they're building or whatever. A lot more people rocking the JPEGs, a lot more sharing of content around the whole crypto space. But yeah, I think coming back to it, you know, the art phase one was kind of like the art. It was just very quickly on social media. You could have this new profile pic. But I think like the social clubs will do very well in their own way as well, because they have a certain kind of like exclusivity. It's like the next really cool thing. So yeah, we've seen it with like the Fly Fish Club. We're going to see it as well with Links DAO.
Links DAO.
Yeah. So Links DAO is a group of 10,000 golfers who chipped in a load of money. They've got about $10 million in the pot so far. And they're going to do more of a capital raise later on and go out and buy like a top 100 golf course in the US. And then the NFTs will allow you to get membership and access to the club.
And how do they raise that 10 million? How do they, so, because I did do a little bit of research into that. I read that golf course article.
Yeah.
That they did a raise of 10 million.
Yeah.
But they hadn't actually bought any real estate.
Yeah.
So how does someone build that level of trust in a prospective buyer of an NFT so that they can get $10 million worth of backing for their project?
Yeah, great question. I guess the thing about the trust is that, like, kind of in the last few years, or like kind of in the economics we're familiar with, we always think of buyers and sellers, and like some enterprise, some entrepreneur is going to come along to you, offer you a good or service. If you like the look of it, you'll buy in or whatever. What like these DAOs are trying to do is trying to pool people together so that everyone in the group, out of the 10,000 people, holds like exactly the same incentives, right? So that's how they're trying to build the trust. Is number one, like the people, like the first 5 people involved in the project, they're like, we want to share like incentives for like the exact same outcomes as what would benefit you as the members most. I think that's the first thing. And secondly, just like radical transparency in communication, like every day posting updates on Twitter, inviting people into your Discord, and then just like keeping a dialogue going in a Discord, holding like a couple events a week so that people can like really get to know you, and them buying into like raising 10 million didn't happen just from like people coming to like a website and reading a landing page with a couple of like sentences. Like it was really, I think, built up through a lot of work, but it can also be done quite quickly, like within a matter of weeks. And I think another key thing to the trust is like being transparent in that, like, you don't have all the answers straight away. You know, they weren't saying, oh, here's like the package, here's how we're going to run this golf club. It was more like, we want to buy a golf club, like who wants in, like how can we like make this work? So it's very much like a work in progress, these things seem to be.
Very good. And do you think the future of NFTs is going to be more towards what we're seeing with online, whether it's one of those JPEGs, a piece of art? Have you heard of NBA Top Shots? NBA Top Shots, where you can buy exclusive ownership of an NBA play, and you can trade that, which is just fascinating. I remember the first time I saw one of those, and I was like, "You're telling me someone's paying $200,000 for a LeBron James 5-second slam dunk clip?"
Yeah,
it's crazy. So, do you think it's going to be more towards that online? Because I think that's initially how it started. With it was based on online digital assets.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're seeing that it's got more of a widespread use. So which direction do you think it's going to prioritize in the future?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of key trends at play. I think for sure it made sense that a lot of these things were like purely online in the early days for the early adopters. Like 2-3 years ago, where were you going to get all the people who are interested in buying a golf course in like one place, right? So I think, yeah, definitely more to come that are like purely online plays, but for sure, like if you're looking at the kind of stuff that's happening in real life, like events driven stuff and everything, that's so nascent. So I think like definitely see like a huge exponential growth there. I think there's so much untapped potential. I think a lot of those social clubs, will start, and sporting events, and will start adapting, having more like NFTs to gain access to stuff or whatever. I think musicians will definitely start embracing NFTs more to try and monetize. Maybe like they can sell some like NFTs of some of their songs, and then these songs can get you like exclusive access to some Discord channels, or yeah, I definitely think all that's going to come into play. I definitely think that where the thing that holds like so much potential that's just so ridiculously early is like these DAOs coming together to buy real assets. I think in the future, like going back to like the example of like Ireland, like I think we were talking about like different nightclubs or different pubs, right? I think in the future you're going to see a scenario where somebody in Ireland just tweets, "Hey, like, should we buy like this nightclub, like Workman's or Coppers or something?"
Mm.
And that tweet will get a load of likes.
Coppers would be a nice one to pick up.
Yeah. So Coppers. So what'll end up happening is there'll be like a couple of like 10,000, 20,000 people will all chip in a certain amount of money, and then like buy Coppers or something like that.
And then they get exclusive benefits with that NFT.
Yeah, like the gold card, or like maybe once a year they get a VIP table or something like that.
The gold card VIP table, get the shift or your money back. You know, that was actually on their Facebook page for a while. Get the shift or your money back. That'll be like because you know the way you can do NFTs in different tiers, right? So you can do like basic membership, premium membership. That could be one of the premium add-ons.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a hurdle stopping like those DAOs coming together and buying real assets though, right? And it's not that DAOs can't legally buy assets. It's that in order to get the money together to buy something, you have to issue securities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you sell a JPEG of an ape, that's not a security, in the same way as like when you sell like a sneaker or something, that may go up in value if it's a Yeezy sneaker, if it's something like that's hype for sure, but it's not an investment contract.
So you're distinguishing between a utility token and a security token, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So a security token will give you an interest in the underlying like economic gain of the operations. Mm-hmm. So say for Fly Fish Club, it's a utility token. You get access to the restaurant or whatever. You don't get like a share of the profits of the restaurant. Now, problem with a lot of these DAOs that are trying, like communities coming together to try and buy something, is they would need to issue securities. And at the moment, it's a very cumbersome process for people who have no legal background to come along and try and get familiar with securities law, which is of course going to vary jurisdiction by jurisdiction, but like the US is probably the clearest one. But yeah, to get like the legal advice on doing a token offering is going to cost, from what I've heard, around $20,000 to $30,000, which is like creates this chicken and egg situation, because a group of people, like a group of Irish people on Twitter, can't pay, like no one's going to pay $20,000 to $30,000 just to get the legal advice so then they can do the token. So I think like right now, because like the legal circumstances are so, everything's so new, people are looking for like as much legal help as possible, and that creates like this massive barrier for people like getting into it. But I think over time, when like a lot of those documents are like published online, open source, people in the future, like you're going to have a situation where someone within a few clicks of a button, 10 minutes, can spin up a company in Wyoming, issue like
Wyoming, great example,
and be filed with the SEC. That's going to happen in the future, but like right now, it's like on the 9th of January 2022, that's not possible.
Okay. And can an NFT offer both utility and security?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would be an example of that? So say we'll use the Fly Fish as an example again. How would that work if it was both?
If it was both, you'd get the utility from accessing the club, but then like you'd share in like the profits or whatever. So like if they made a big profit that year, it would stay in the business, or they could like distribute dividends to you or whatever.
Okay, and do you know of any NFT projects that do that currently?
That I'm not sure. It definitely tends to be more of like a spectrum where tokens get like there's some frameworks out there from some like leading kind of crypto lawyers that can kind of like you can kind of ask you about like your token project and you can fill in the details and it'll give you like a score of 1 to 5. I can't personally off the top of my head think of any specific projects that are like this is super high in utility and also a security thing that was done to fundraise. Not off the top of my head anyway. But okay. I'll get back to you.
You can be the first.
Yeah.
I assume there's other ones, but you can be the first to your knowledge.
Yeah.
So how do you want to be involved? Where did your interest come? Or when did you start becoming interested in becoming involved with NFTs?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because like definitely years ago, like around the time of like the crypto boom of 2017, like I definitely did not see the appeal of cryptocurrency at all. And I guess it was still very much in like a speculative stage at this stage. Like it was very much like, oh, like this is the future, like this is all gonna happen. But yeah, I mean, at this stage now with like so many NFT projects becoming mainstream, crypto in use, like in those projects, all these like kind of micro economies and different games and stuff. I think like it's becoming so mainstream. Over 300 million people have a MetaMask account. So that's really telling that we're like hitting this kind of breakout stage. 300 million.
300 million.
Yeah.
300 million people have a MetaMask account.
Yeah. That's only MetaMask. Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah.
That's like, what percentage of the world is that? 7 billion people in the world.
1 in 24-ish.
Yeah, it's 5% of the world have a MetaMask account.
Yeah, but thereabouts. Yeah.
Wow.
I think those are, so there's a couple of things. Like number one, it's having this breakout moment and it's coming into like real use. Number two, so many like entrepreneurs, so many startups are like gravitating towards this field. That's becoming kind of impossible to ignore. I think number three as well, once you get into like seeing, I think if you have that like kind of eureka moment or that kind of Saul on the road to Damascus moment where you see the light, like if you are thinking about some kind of business problem and then you realize like crypto can fix that, that's when you start to go into like stumble down the rabbit hole where you're like, okay, this aligns the incentives with this customer more. Let's read a bit more about this. How do you like work this? And then like you're just like fully in. So in the instance of, let's say for your game, doing real estate, maybe you tend to sell more to funds or high net worth individuals. But say if you were thinking to yourself, oh, like Paddy asked me about investing in some property in Tulum, and he didn't have like $200,000 to like stump up or whatever. How could I like enable like people like Paddy or like your mate Aaron or whoever? How could I enable them to invest in like property in Tulum? I think once you have that kind of moment, then you're thinking, okay, this crypto could be onto something.
Excellent. So what's your plan going forward with NFTs?
I'm definitely very, very interested in looking into that barrier on the legal side and whether there are ways to build a product that will help either lawyers and entrepreneurs come together and get that paperwork done quicker. Maybe try and automate some of that process. Maybe share like best practices from like reading over some of the SEC filings that we can find online. Yeah, I'm interested. I think any situation where, you know, asset tokenization has all these fantastic benefits, say for real estate, the idea that you can like just trade shares in like a house in Tulum. You have that like liquidity, your money isn't locked up, you can fractionalize it so someone can like invest maybe as little as $500. I think when you see so many benefits and then you see this massive hurdle stopping people getting into that, I think it'd be very interesting to work on, like, how can we enable other fantastic project leaders to like overcome that.
Okay, awesome. So you telling me you're looking at a place in Tulum? That's all I heard.
Cha-ching. Yeah, no, I'm interested in like, how can we enable, going back to that idea before, someone to send a tweet, get the interest, pool funds together, and be able to, like, as quickly as possible, go and buy a real asset without $20,000 to $30,000 of legal fees, without like just that complexity, that stress, like, and to do it in a really compliant manner. Like, I don't want like people to be saying, oh well, we can just forget the SEC, because you can't do that. But you can spin up companies, like you look at the likes of Clerky and Stripe Atlas, like they enable you to incorporate a company in Delaware within minutes. I think that, like, with securities and stuff, like there's probably opportunities to like make it a lot quicker.
And say Delaware is a big tax haven, right?
I'm no tax expert. It's right. It's what they say. It's easy to comprehend the regulations there. Yeah.
Okay, that's one way of putting it. So say you did a house, right, with an NFT.
Yeah.
What would be an example of someone who's putting in $500, $1,000 into the NFT? What would be some examples of benefits that they would get in terms of access to that house?
Yeah. I mean, say for instance, if we did go ahead and pool together money and buy a big mansion in Tulum, right?
Okay.
I think some of the benefits you could have is, you could structure it in a way that maybe the house is rented a lot of the time, and, shareholders in the property can receive back dividends. You could have it that you could randomly like give away week-long stays in the house to people. You could maybe gate it so that only people within the NFT community, that particular community, can stay at the house. You can maybe decide, let's do it like a hotel, so like lots of different people in the community can stay there at the one time, and like it's kind of cool if like other people who are like super passionate about crypto and investing can get to hang out, maybe even like make content or like work on new startup projects there. I think there's like, the other thing you can get from doing these communities is, okay, like you invested into the house in Tulum, and the next project being run is we're buying a mansion on Lake Como, like right next to George Clooney's. Like, since you invested in the house in Tulum, you have like early access to buying into that Lake Como mansion before like anyone else in the world can, or whatever. Probably plenty of ways, or like even throw like regular events or parties in like the house in Tulum or something like that. I'm sure
that'd be an attractive deal.
I'm sure that's something that Jack O'Hara and a few bottles of tequila could arrange.
Yeah, exactly. Did you have when you were here? Did you have the mezcal?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
the mezcal. That's I think tequila's evil brother.
I actually think mezcal, I really like the taste of it. I think it's an absolutely amazing spirit. I prefer it to whiskey or any other spirit. I think it's lovely.
Yeah, that could be another NFT project.
Yeah, that's so true. You could form a DAO, raise the capital, and then like buy out a mezcal plant. Have people vote on like what should be the name of it. Each year they could get like a couple of bottles of mezcal or whatever. Yeah, I think that will happen.
Yeah, it potentially. Well, according to Gary Vee, who is right about a lot of things, it's going to become a mainstream phenomenon in everybody's life, that everybody's going to own NFTs in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I just want to get back to the real estate. So say, for example, with all those benefits, all those utilities that you get in terms of access to the house, is there some sort of mechanism where every single NFT owner for that project has real-time updates as to exactly who is entitled to what, who is in the house at what time, like scheduling and stuff like that? How does that work?
Yeah, I guess that could all be like done or whatever. I'm not sure like what booking system you would use, but yeah, it could, the tokens could be like integrated into that. You could see which wallet holder, if you could operate a system where like people's names are shared, or you could keep it somewhat pseudonymous, maybe just have the wallet,
just have their JPEG image, and their fictitious name.
Yeah, yeah. I've always thought about, what if we just make JPEG images of ourselves, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and sell it for $69 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Where do you think the future of NFTs is going? Big question, right?
Oh my God, a very vague question, very open-ended. Yeah, I just think probably, yeah, a continuation of those trends that we've seen started. You know, artwork was like the first thing majorly disrupted, but now I don't think even 2022, I don't think artwork inherently by itself is going to be enticing enough to people. I think people, the bar has been raised. I think people want benefits, they want community, they want something. I think you had like a lot of kind of crypto native artists, like people who made their name through NFTs. I think what you're going to see more of is celebrities, big brands jumping into it or whatever, and leveraging like their brand equity to do that. And yeah, going back, more of those like real life experiences when it comes to memberships. And the other thing I really see changing is content being changed. I think when you look at like what are the major content platforms, like the YouTube, Spotify, Twitch, those kind of social networks, even Medium, you know, where you write or like publish blogs. I think you're going to see, it was very much like those platforms made like money and like distributed like only a small percentage to their creators. I think there's going to be like a massive battle for like the future of content creation and publishing. Those platforms will inevitably have to offer better deals to keep people on them and stop them, like say in the case of Medium, like more and more writers are like going over onto Mirror, where they can earn like a stake in the entire platform. And what that means is, say if you're one of the early writers and you're earning these like write tokens on the Mirror platform, they might not be like worth a huge amount now, but as network effects kick in and the network becomes way more popular and more people want to join, those early tokens are gonna like go up in value. So I think, yeah, like those, I don't think content platforms like YouTube and Twitch and all those are gonna like become inherently Web3 yet. But I think the next stage in 2022 is they will be really pushed to think, how do we help people monetize? I think, for instance, on Twitter, you're going to see it introduced in the next year or two that there'll be tiers, right? So you can follow someone and maybe you have to like pay to get access to some of their like exclusive tweets or content and stuff like that. I think that will happen. There'll be some kind of gating mechanism. Yeah, I think that's a really crucial thing. People on those platforms will be able to like design their business model a bit more. Whereas like presently you sign up and you play by their rules.
Got it. So content creation is going to be really big.
Yeah.
I think it is currently because a lot of the projects are being pushed due to really good marketing campaigns. Like again, the Fly Fish Club is by Gary Vee. Gary Vee is a marketing genius. So I think that is a really important factor as well for obviously raising awareness, but for showing people in a easy way exactly how they can benefit from the NFT, because NFTs are not that straightforward to understand for just the average person.
Yeah.
So why, assuming that NFTs are going to go mainstream, which I think that is possibly where they're headed, it's speculation of course, but why should somebody buy an NFT?
I guess firstly, I wouldn't advocate that people like jump in straight away. Definitely do your due diligence. If, you know, and I think people should buy it if it's something they really believe in the project, and they believe in kind of like the intrinsic value in the project or the fundamentals, rather than thinking, oh, I'm here to like flip, you know, I'm here to buy this JPEG and like sell it a week later. You know, if a lot of people have talked about with buying into like NFTs, right? People are saying, okay, so I bought this thing and like the value of it has gone down, but I got access to these networking events, these parties, this online community. Like I got so many other benefits from it that like, you know, even while it's like down, you know, and it may go up again in value, like I've still derived like a lot of like utility or benefit from it. So yeah, I think just taking on like a case by case, and I don't think people should jump in out of FOMO, or get carried away by like what can kind of be like that kind of mentality, that kind of bubble mentality isn't going to like serve people well. I think, yeah, but if there's something out there and you really believe in it and really want to like acquire it, then yeah, why not? One thing I think will be very interesting though with NFTs and crypto coming to real estate is hype.
Yeah.
So when you think of luxury, think of say like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, you can walk into those shops, buy the really expensive sneakers, the handbag or whatever, walk out. Hype is all about scarcity.
Yes.
So take for example like some of the Air Jordans or Yeezy by Adidas. It doesn't matter how much you want to make an offer to Adidas for. They're selling during the launch at this price, and maybe there might be 10, 20 times as many people who make a bid for it as actually get it. So it's all about that like constrained scarcity. So I think you'll see that coming in with some of these like really cool real estate NFT projects, like buying a fractional share of a mansion. I think there's a really interesting case for NFTs in creating kind of a passive income for people. So what some people do with their assets is they use them as collateral to take out loans, okay? So you're going to see more of that happening in the crypto world, where people are going to like take out a loan for say $100,000 against their Bitcoin. Their Bitcoin is held as collateral. They pay back interest of say 10% or whatever.
10%.
Yeah, say for example.
As in it will be higher because it's a more volatile source of collateral.
Yeah, it could be, or the algorithm might decide that maybe, depending on how creditworthy you seem or whatever.
Okay.
I think that people will use real estate NFTs to borrow money, and so that's something they can kind of live off, while like real estate NFTs can like continue to like appreciate in value and they're very stable. If they fail to repay those loans, then like the NFT is like taken from them or whatever. But
well, what if the NFT isn't worth anything?
The thing is though, like real estate, like fractional share in real estate though, it's pretty stable, right? Like a JPEG could go to zero, but
yeah,
a share in a mansion on Lake Como does not go to zero.
There's always going to be some sort of demand for that.
There's a protection against downside,
as opposed to an image.
Yeah, as opposed to an image
of
where you're relying on, like, say, the community leaders to keep throwing the best parties and for people to want to keep going to them. I think that real estate NFTs would be really good for borrowing against, because they have that downside protection, and it means you have access to cash flow while you don't have to sell your NFT and incur capital gains tax on it. I think a lot of people will use real estate NFTs for that purpose. So
Lethal.
I would gently put the idea in your head that Tulum needs real estate NFTs.
Veremos.